Andrea Nemeth, a very warm welcome to you. Andrea, you're in
Thank you.
Australia. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Andrea, you're in Australia on the Great Barrier Reef. What are you doing there?
I am. So I live in Cairns and I'm a scuba diving instructor and underwater photographer on the Great Barrier Reef on the big tourist boats, taking people out diving and snorkeling and capturing their memories.
Andrea, you come from Austria. What took you from Austria to the Great Barrier Reef?
Yeah, I am from Austria. So originally I just came to Australia on a working holiday visa. Just wanted to explore the country a little bit. And then I ended up in Cairns and I thought I might as well try and do a day of work for a free day of diving, as backpackers do. And then lucky enough, I actually got a permanent job out of it. And I decided to stay.
And you're going to stay forever and ever.
We'll see. At the moment, I'm in the process of getting a permanent residency. Hopefully, I'm getting a partnership visa with my partner. So life is pretty stable here, but I also do miss Europe a lot.
Andrea, what sort of reception did you get from the Australian people?
Everyone is very friendly and laid back. The culture is very easygoing, I would say. The classic no worries to everything. Things just work a little bit slower in general, but it's also really good. I feel like some things are in Europe, at least in the cities, life is going very fast and everything is under pressure. And here it feels like people kind of take the pressure off a little bit and things are so far apart. So, you have to wait for your parcel 4 weeks. No worries. It's just how it is.
Okay. Andrea, you are working on the Great Barrier Reef, you said. Tell us,
Yeah, that's correct.
tell us a little bit about the Great Barrier Reef, because we believe it's dying and all this kind of stuff. Well, what is the truth of the Great Barrier Reef as you see it swimming around?
I would say it is, according to the marine biologists that I work with, it's getting better again. But the coral does suffer from the hot temperatures, especially in summertime. But this summer, the reefs we go to, we haven't seen any bleaching, which is great. So in general, I think we obviously do need to keep in mind that the rising temperatures and everything have a big influence on the coral. But it's kind of recovering a little bit, but we can tell that the coral is migrating south because the waters are getting warmer in the south as well. So there's definitely a change, but it's still beautiful. The coral coverage is amazing and there's healthy marine life. There's many reef sharks, which is good for the reef as well. And it's stunning. Yeah, it's unlike anything I've ever seen before.
Andrea, you say the reef is getting better. Is it getting better on its own, or are we, so people, doing anything to help it get better?
We're trying. There's many projects of trying to help the reef recover. There's coral nurseries and many marine biologists here working on how to get the coral back to its healthiest state, so to say. But I'm not sure, it's still very fragile, but apparently it's not disintegrating as fast as many people think. Many people, they come out and they think, oh, it's all dead, it's all just a rock, but it's not, which is nice.
What sort of fish do you find swimming around the reef?
Many fish. We find Nemo every day. Good little Nemo. We have a beautiful humphead Mary wrasse. He's a resident at the reef we go to daily. He's very friendly. He's quite big. I would say he's about 1.5 meters. And he's like a puppy dog, so he knows the boat. He knows us, people who swim there every day. We see the beautiful parrotfish, very colourful. We also get to see sharks and turtles, green sea turtles, hawksbill sea turtles, many different anemone fish, trumpet fish. There's so many, I can't even count them all.
It's really incredible. Are the sharks dangerous?
Not at all. No, the sharks we get mostly are reef sharks. They are white tips and black tips. They're not very big. They're about 1 meter to 1.5 meters, maybe in size as well. The locals say they're like backpackers. They party all night and sleep during the day. So you have to be very lucky to see them. But no, they're kind of skittish. So when people come up, they usually tend to swim away. There is the chance of bigger sharks like tiger sharks and bull sharks and sometimes hammerheads, but they're not dangerous at all to us. No, they're just scared as well, and usually they swim off, so you have to be really lucky to see them.
Wow. Tell me something. Life in Australia isn't only the coral reef, I would imagine. What about going inland? What sort of nature have you got near Cairns where you live?
We have so many things. It's very diverse. We have the beaches, obviously. The beaches are beautiful, but you are not supposed to go swimming there because of a slight chance of crocodiles and jellyfish. But you can go for a walk and it's really beautiful. And then if you go inland, we have the rainforest. The rainforest is stunning. There's many activities to do there too, but there's also water holes and waterfalls. You can go swimming in all the creeks and it's very beautiful. If you go a little bit further up, there's also the mountain range. So you can go for hikes as well. And yeah, there's plenty to see. There's the outback, there's caves if you go a little bit further north, but I haven't explored that part yet, but I would like to. So there's lots and lots of things to do.
You mentioned crocodiles. What about spiders? They're dangerous too, we've heard. What is the truth about these spiders that eat you up and everything else?
I get asked that question a lot from people from Europe, but actually it's not that bad. In 3.5 years of being in Australia, I've only seen a spider as big as my hand once, and that was on a little island. So they are there. There's plenty of them, and huntsmen, for example, they get quite big, but we don't see them as much. If you go looking for them, of course, you can find them. But the spiders we have here, I think in Queensland, they're not so bad. If you go further south, Victoria, I think they have the redback spider. That's quite dangerous if it eats you. I've seen people with bites of that spider. It looks nasty. It's not very nice. But it's not really that big of an issue here, which is great because I'm terribly afraid of spiders. So that was a big worry for me coming to Australia, but luckily I've been proven wrong.
Well, what is the system like in Australia? Say you get bitten by a spider. What sort of hospitals, doctors and these things have you got there?
To be honest, there's a general hospital, and I guess you go there if it happens and just hope that you're not too far away from any ambulance service, I guess.
Okay, and you've got flying doctors and things like that, we've heard.
Yes, we do, but luckily I have not gotten to know them yet. But so, for example, when we have something happen out at the reef, which is, thank God, not very often, but obviously the ambulance can't drive out like anywhere else. So you have to send the rescue helicopter and it's all a bit more adventurous.
Okay. You know many Australians, I would imagine. You have an Australian partner.
Yeah, exactly.
What sort of work can people do in Cairns in Australia? What are the main jobs?
I would say in Cairns, the main jobs are tourism industry. So many people work on the boats. There's many boats that take you out to the little islands like Fitzroy Island and Green Island. And obviously the Great Barrier Reef, there's many tour operators. There's many restaurants as well. And otherwise, I would say most people I see working are tradies, like working at construction sites. There's always many things happening on the roads with all the rain. So constantly the roads have to be patched up. So many people are doing that. But I would say definitely tourism is the most.
Tourism means restaurants. What kind of food do you eat in Australia? What's a typical Australian Sunday lunch?
I would say barbecue. Australians love their barbecue. Anything you can cook on a barbecue, sausage, steak. They are meat lovers for sure. So when I got here 3 years ago, vegetarian options, there weren't that many in restaurants. But it's getting better now. And also plenty of seafood, obviously. So many seafood restaurants around on the waterfront. It's quite nice.
You mentioned meat eaters. What about kangaroos? do the Australians eat kangaroos?
They do, yes. It's definitely a thing you can get at the butcher.
What do they taste like?
I have tried it once.
Okay.
And it was kind of a sweet meat, but it's not my favorite, I think. And also I try not to eat it again just because when you see the kangaroos and you look into their eyes, they're so cute. They're like a puppy dog, so it's very hard, to think about it while you eat it.
Okay, so it's best not to eat it then. What about what about koala bears? Are they near where you live as well?
I have seen koalas a little bit south, so about a 5-hour car drive. And there's a little island called Magnetic Island, and that's where I've seen koalas. They're really sleepy, really cute, but I'm sure you've heard the story of the drop bears that drop out of the trees and eat poor backpackers at night.
But tell me about this. Tell me. This sounds really, really incredible. They drop out the trees and eat you. Come on, tell us more.
Yeah, well, that's a story I've been told. When I just got to Australia, everyone asked me, oh, have you heard about the drop bears when you're camping? They're this dangerous bear. They drop out of the trees and they can smell the backpackers, especially when you're European, and they kill and eat you. Of course, they're not real, but that's a story the Australians like to tell.
This sounds like Australian humour. Tell us about this Australian humour. Tell us a bit about this.
Australian humour, I would say, very blunt, but people are joking around a lot. That's also a thing I noticed with the culture here. People are more likely to talk to strangers, which is quite nice. People wait in line and they just start chatting and joking about things, and I quite enjoy it. Yeah, it takes the edge off a little bit.
Is that one of the biggest differences maybe between Europe and Australia?
I would say so. Yes, absolutely. People greet each other, and then sometimes when you're in the city in Europe and you really don't feel like saying just hello to some random stranger because everyone looks a little grumpy and stressed. But here people do, and they just start talking to each other.
You mentioned Australian culture. What is the culture like in Cairns? Have you got a theatre, this kind of stuff?
Theatre?
Yeah, culture.
Yes, there's the Cairns Performing Arts Centre, which is basically there's concerts and that sort of things, but mostly pop music, and there's sometimes film festivals like the Ocean Film Festival or the Mountain Film Festival. But I would say that's about it. It's very different. I haven't heard of any kind of theatre happening anywhere. No, not in Cairns. I'm sure it's different in the big cities, but yeah, Cairns is a bit different.
Maybe you could just tell us where Cairns is. Is it to the north, the south, west, the east?
Yeah, it is on the east coast in the north, so far north Queensland. I think it's if you want to get to the very tip of Australia, it's still quite a bit of a drive, but it's the biggest city in the north. I would say we have an international airport, which is very surprising. But let's say it is about I think it's 18-hour car drive north of Brisbane, which is the next big city, I would say. Otherwise, in between, there's Townsville, which is 5 hours south from here. But in between, it's not much.
And Ayers Rock, Alice Springs, how far away are they?
Very far. That's in the very middle of the country. So I think I've been there once, but I flew to Darwin, which is a 2.5-hour flight from Cairns. And then it was, I think, a 5-day drive to get to Ayers Rock, Uluru.
Great.
Yes.
At the beginning, you mentioned that you are a photographer. Tell us a little bit about this.
So I always like to take photos. I have my own little camera, but never did anything professionally. And then I was lucky enough to get a job as an underwater photographer. So the company showed me how everything works and trained me up on everything. And I get to use the equipment there because it's very expensive to get your own waterproof and pressure-proof housing for your camera with all the professional lights and strobes and everything. I think it's about 20,000 euros worth, the set that I get to take photos with every day. So it's very cool and I love it. I just, swim around like a ping pong ball, try to catch all the people on the reef and try to catch all the animals and getting photos of everything and everyone. And I love it. It's a big challenge as well because it's not easy. It's not just point and shoot. Obviously, your settings are very different underwater to get things captured nicely, but it's great. I love it.
Photography means light. How deep is the reef? It's got enough colour, hasn't it? I would tell us a bit about this.
It does. So on my camera, I have a strobe, but that gives a bit more colour because the colour fades very quickly the deeper down you go. But most of our dive sites are between 5 and 20 meters, I would say, where the coral is. Anything deeper than that is mostly sand, at least where we go to. But when you're snorkeling, sometimes you get to snorkel only 50 centimeters above the coral. So you can really see everything nice and close. So it's quite shallow.
And makes very good pictures.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely easier to photograph in the shallows than in the deep.
Have you had any exhibitions or have you got an online exhibition maybe?
No, I don't. Not at all. I'm not that professional yet, but I'm working my way up.
Brilliant. A question. When you're not swimming, taking photos, do you listen to the radio and watch television? Just give us an idea of what that's like in Australia.
To be honest, not as much anymore. I used to. The main radio station I used to listen to is called Triple J. But they started talking a little bit too much for my taste. So now I switched to a bit of an alternative radio station. They're really, it's quite funny when you're driving through the tropics and the palm trees and most of it, what they play is reggae and very relaxed sounds. So you kind of get into a holiday mood. But on television, to be honest, I don't really watch television. There's many ads as well because television here is for free. You don't have to pay anything, but there's many ads, so it's not as enjoyable. So I prefer to stream on Netflix or Disney Plus.
Okay. There's a coronation coming up in Britain in a couple of weeks. King Charles. What do your friends think about the king, the new king?
To be honest, I haven't heard much about it. It's not something people really talk about. They talked about when the Queen passed away, but everything else, it feels like we're very removed. And yeah, I couldn't tell you.
But what do you think? Because you're going to become an Australian citizen one day, maybe, and then
maybe
he will be your king.
To be completely honest with you, I don't really have an opinion because I'm not that invested. I probably should be, as you say, if I'm serious about becoming a citizen or resident, but unfortunately I'm not. Yeah, I should probably look into that.
Okay. How do you get on with the Aborigines, the natives, I suppose?
Yeah.
Do you have much contact or how is it?
Yeah, so I used to work on a different boat and they focus on all the Indigenous culture as well. So many people working there were Indigenous and coming from the Torres Strait Island and from all the little communities around Cairns. And yeah, just humans like you and me, living the normal life. So they're very nice people, very friendly as well. Yeah.
That's
and they can play the didgeridoo very well. most of them, yep. But women are not supposed to touch it, so I have not gotten a chance to practice.
Why aren't women supposed to touch a didgeridoo?
I think there's some big story behind it. The didgeridoo used to be the instrument of the women or something, and then something happened and they changed and traded, and now it's the man's thing.
It's a man's world, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure is.
So you live in a wonderful place, and it's Easter, and you're down on the beach having barbecues and doing all of these nice kind of things. Tell me something. What do you do when you go on holiday in Australia? Do you go camping out back or horse riding? Some of these things.
Yeah, definitely camping. Camping is one of the things that Australians love, and I love it too. At the moment, I don't have a tent, so I need to buy one and then I can go camping again. But my last big holiday was, I flew home to Austria to visit my family. But the one before was a big trip in a four-wheel drive car with a rooftop tent, so camping, and we drove from Darwin to Uluru, Ayers Rock, and then across the Great Central Road, which is in the very outback of Australia, just a dirt road and no other people to be seen anywhere. And then, so camping is definitely great. And the good thing about Australia is there's so much space, and you really can get away from civilization if you want to. Or if you don't want to, you can simply catch a plane and fly for 2 hours and you're in Sydney and can enjoy a big city. But I prefer, I think, just being in nature and seeing new places rather than cities. Yeah.
So you're having a great life, aren't you? One quick question. When are you coming home again? Home, I mean back to Austria for a while, maybe a holiday?
As soon as I can. I would love to come home for Christmas, but since I work in tourism, it's not very easy to get the time off. So my plan is probably February to come home for a few weeks, and then I would love to do a trip back home in Austrian summertime for maybe a month or two, so a little bit longer. But yeah, as soon as I can.
How hot is it where you are in Cairns in the summer? How hot does it get?
In the summer, so December, January is when it's the hottest, and it gets really hot. So around, only about, I guess, 38, 39 degrees, but the humidity is extreme. It's very, very humid because it's the wet season as well. So that's what makes it feel unbearable. Sometimes it's, let's say, only 29 or 30 degrees and you're sweating already at 6 o'clock in the morning because it's just so humid.
Okay.
Yeah.
In Austria, the weather's become extremely hot in the summer because of global warming. It's up to 38 degrees, 40 degrees even. So probably there's not such a big difference anymore. But just give us one.
I would say that at least in Australia, we have the buildings are designed for the heat. So we have air conditioning in every room. So once you get home, it's really not a big deal. But in Austria, when you get a heat wave, no one has air conditioning, and it's a bit, especially in Vienna, for example, it's very extreme, I guess.
It's very hard work. Tell us, what is the time now? Here it's 4 o'clock in the morning. What time is it there?
It's 1 o'clock lunchtime, so 12:50 at the moment.
And are you going back to work in a minute, or are you home for your lunch?
Oh, no, I have a day off today. When I'm at work, I'm out on the ocean from about 7 till 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's big days.
So what are you doing?
Without reception, but it's worth it.
What are you doing this afternoon then?
This afternoon depends. If the clouds are clearing up a little bit, I'll probably hang out by the pool and get some sun and enjoy a coffee, as you do.
So, Andrea Nemeth, all the way from Australia, go off and enjoy your afternoon by the pool. And thank you really very much for talking to us. Would you like to say hello to anybody in Austria, Vienna, who may be listening?
Oh, I would love to. I would love to say hello to all my family, and especially to my brother Lucas, who got me in touch with you.
Brilliant. I'll give him your regards, and he will be listening to this. We're going to broadcast it on.
I hope so.
Yeah, and you can listen to it too. So we'll send the links and do all of that. And thank you very much once again. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And having...
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, but isn't that the real meaning of life somehow? Having a good time?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I agree. And that's one thing I think the Australians know. They enjoy their life. They enjoy what they have in their backyard, and it's great.
Sure.